Good morning, everybody. Thank you for being here today. And grab your Bible and let's start in the 120th Psalm. Finally have arrived at the next Psalm, and in the little shorter Psalm this time. We go from having 176 verses to 7. And so the 120th Psalm. And take just a minute as you're finding your place there. You're going to notice, should be in your Bible, that above, if you're looking at the text, it says that this is a song of degrees. Um, that's an interesting statement. What you're going to notice is we're about to enter a section of Psalms where the next 15 Psalms are all going to have that same superscript above them, that this is a song of degrees. I can tell you that there is no less than uh, 6 or 7 different ideas about what that means. Not going into all of them because at the end I can't answer. I don't know what it means. I don't really believe anybody exactly knows what it means. I will give you an idea. I mean, it's no great big deal. Some think that it has something to do with who sang the song. That a different choir would sing these psalms. Others that it had to do with the stages of the return to the promised land when the Israelites came out of their Babylonian captivity. Some somehow to deal with prophecy. Others think that these psalms were sung as the psalmist, or as the Israelites would make their yearly, as all the Israelites would come, as they would come to Jerusalem, that they would sing these psalms as they worked their way up to Jerusalem, which was up a hillside for them to return to. Then as they worked their way up to the city of Jerusalem, as they passed each stage, they would sing a different song. It's about almost 3,000 feet up to Jerusalem, and that they would sing a different one of these psalms as they went through. Don't know. I like that answer, to be honest with you. Probably if I was picking, that would be one of them. But one of the things I do want to point out about that I think is more important, really, is that in these 15 Psalms, you're going to see, or I hope I do, I hope I do a good job of pointing this out, that these 15 Psalms can be put into 5 groups of 3. And each one of these groups follows a similar pattern. In the first Psalm, for example, 120, the difficulty, the problem is presented. There's a trouble in the first one. In the second Psalm of the set, so that would be 120, 121, 124, 120, no, I'm skipping too far. Yeah, 121, 124, 127, 130, 133. I guess I did that math right. But the second psalm in each one of these sets would show us some biblical promise, something to rely on. And then the third psalm in this each group shows the victory. And so we're going to see that model repeat itself again 5 times as we go. And so in Psalm 120, we are starting with the psalm here that presents the trouble. You see it right off. In my distress, I cried unto the Lord, and He heard me. And so we see immediately that this psalm is about some type of trouble or difficulty. Again, it's not a particular shock, I don't guess, to anybody, especially if you've been here very long. As we went through that, this psalm is about some kind of problem, some kind of a huge problem in their life that was going on. Again, this was an anonymous. We don't know who wrote this psalm. We don't know where he was from, but it does appear that he lives in a land. Look at verse 2. Deliver me from lying lips. Sounds a lot like the author of the previous psalm, that there are people who are slandering him, who are talking about him, coming against him. And so he's going to describe his problem. A great lesson for us here is what do we do? Again, another example, another psalm, how we deal with those who come against us. How do we deal? And even more broad than that, he says, in my distress. Now, in the next verse, he describes this lying lips, but I think we can take this and say, just when we have distress, we have problems in general. His problem, again, was he was being slandered, lied about, and so he turns his eyes to the Lord. In my distress, I cried unto the Lord. Great lesson right there for us, because the human reaction is to lash out, to strike out, to get even, to get revenge. But his reaction here is to turn to the Lord. That's worth our time here today if we can just learn that lesson, not to try to take matters into our own hands, but to put our trust in God. And he does that, again, because he believes, again, this is a very, I think, very appropriate follow-up to the 119th Psalm. He says, I'm going to cry to the Lord because I know he's faithful. I know that he is... he's one I can trust. He is, when I turn to him in my distress, I can rely on God. In the past, he has heard me. And it's hard to tell here, but the word cried, the word that is used there, the Hebrew word, means that it's already happened. And so in other words, he's saying, my past with God has shown me that I can trust him, that I can call out to him and rely on him in desperate times. And so now we see his prayer is deliver me from the lying lips and from the deceitful tongue. Because I know God is faithful, I'm going to trust him. I'm going to rely on him to deliver me and to protect me from these who are spreading these lies about me. And one lesson that I really think we should take away from those two verses again is that simple lesson, that the fact that God has always been faithful should encourage us and help us to move forward in our current situation. He knew from the past that God loved him. He knew from the past that God cared about him and that God would take care of him. Because of that, he was trusting God in his current situation. And that's a great lesson for us now. I want to remind you to keep that in your heart, keep that in your mind, that whatever you face today, you keep in your mind and you remember that God's always been faithful. God hasn't failed you. God hasn't abandoned you yet, and so we can rely on His continued faithfulness. And man, there's so many times in life, so many times a day, that we need that encouragement, that we need that reminder that God has always been faithful. He is still on the throne. I've cried to Him in the past, and He heard me, and so I can count on Him when I cry today, that He'll hear me again, and you can too. I hope that'll strengthen you. I hope that'll encourage you today to deal with whatever distress, as the psalmist describes it in this verse, that in your distress you cry to the Lord, and He will hear you. Have a great day, and we will see you tomorrow.